Hi, this is Deb Disney. This is The Wheel of Prayer. It's adapted from The Wheel of Awareness by Dr. Dan Siegel. First, imagine three parts of a real wheel. There's the center, or the hub. There's the outer rim, and there are spokes that connect the hub to the rim. And now think of the hub of the wheel as being awareness or consciousness, or however you would define the aspect of you that knows. And think of the rim of the wheel as individual aspects of our individual lives, which are the aspects of lives that are known. For example, the first quadrant is our five senses. And as we work our way counterclockwise, you can see that the second quadrant is our experience of the interior of the body. The third quadrant represents mental activities such as thoughts, feelings, memories. And the fourth quadrant represents our interconnectedness with others. So I'd like to reiterate that the hub of the wheel represents the consciousness or awareness that's capable of knowing, and the rim is the things of this physical world that can be known. This is a very important distinction, so let's pause and think about this for a moment. What if you were to think of the hub as the center of your soul? What if you were to think of the hub as being where we are aligned with God, resting in the protective lap and love of Jesus? What if we were to think of this as where all eternal souls and the eternal love of God are aligned? In other words, where our capital S self is when we are joined in prayer with God. What if we were to think of this as the eternal soul that never dies, but continues to abide with God after the death of the body? So this is awareness, consciousness, knowing. Let's keep or call this our capital S self. And it's not just my capital S self that is there with God. It is every person's capital S self that is there with God. And this is very different from the aspects of our individual physical lives that are represented on the rim, those things that we can know about. What if we could recognize that the rim aspects are our egoic small s selves, the temporary aspects of this temporary physical life? I believe that it could greatly reduce our daily stress if we were to not overly identify with the parts of life that are represented on the rim. For example, looking at quadrant 1, if I could separate the hub from the rim, in other words, separate the knowing from the known, separate the capital S spiritual self from the small s physical self that has five senses, it could mean that I could hear a loud yippy dog barking all day and not be annoyed by it because it cannot damage my capital S spiritual self. It might mean I could see a mess in my child's room and not be annoyed by it because, again, it cannot damage my capital S spiritual self. Moving counterclockwise, let's look at the implications in quadrant 2. If I could separate the hub from the rim, separate the knowing from the known, I'm separating the capital S spiritual self from the small s physical self that has interior body sensations. It might mean I could have a migraine headache, but it's not my headache, it's just a headache. temporarily here, not able to damage my capital S self. It might mean that I could be carrying more weight than feels comfortable, but I don't let it degrade my self-compassion because it cannot damage my capital S spiritual self. And moving on to quadrant 3. If I could separate hub from rim, knowing from known, capital S spiritual self from the small s physical self that has mental activities, then I could be aware of my thoughts, feelings, and memories as temporary. Anger, sadness, guilt would be things that come and go and are not necessarily true. Perhaps I could see my thoughts as ego-based, fear-based. Perhaps I would not let them lead to intense, non-constructive feelings such as depression, rage, or panic, because they are not able to damage my capital S spiritual self where love abides. And finally, in quadrant 4, if I could separate hub from rim, knowing from known, capital S spiritual self from the small s physical self that has relationships, I could wish others well and send them love, regardless of whether or not I agree with their views, their actions, their politics, because I would see them as also having a capital S spiritual self that's here in the hub with me and with God. I would see that they are loved by God just as much as I am, and that their small s physical self is not able to damage my capital S spiritual self. If we could practice this, I believe that we would experience more peacefulness. I believe it would lead to our ability to rest in love, in the clear, receptive, calm, aware, and open, peaceful love of God, regardless of whatever chaos is occurring in our lives on the rim, and regardless of whatever chaos is occurring on the rims of others. If I could rest in the hub on the lap of Jesus, in love, I could let go of perceptions of past and future, and time would collapse. And in the hub, love is extended to all, because all others are here too, giving and receiving the same loved one another, and relationships would be holy. So the power of doing the wheel of prayer practice is to see the difference between hub and rim, capital S spiritual self from little s physical self, love from fear. So in the prayer, we'll be moving a spoke of attention counterclockwise around the wheel, moving our attention with intention to each aspect. Let me say that again. With intention, we are going to focus our attention on each aspect of the rim. Why do this? Well, the practice allows us to free the mind from being too focused on physical life. Sometimes we're so focused on the aches and pains of the body, on painful thoughts and feelings, or painful relationships, that we find it difficult to rest in love because we're so immersed in the fear. So this is a practice. It's done as a prayer, and it helps us to see all of those aspects of life as if we were wearing God-shaped glasses, seeing through the lens of love, resting in the safe place where our spiritual self and God are joined. It's a time of prayer to set aside 10 minutes to be with God, eyes closed, enjoying being home, the capital H home. The more often we do this, the more it will feel natural to move through the 24 hours of our physical lives wearing the same God-shaped glasses and feeling at home wherever we are, no matter what chaos is happening around us. I'll be guiding you in the prayer to send a spoke from the hub of knowing out to the rim of the known. I'll start with breath just to help stabilize attention, and then I'll start in the first quadrant of the 5 senses and move counterclockwise to other quadrants, finishing with the quadrant of relationships. And I'll be inviting you to imagine the spoke to be like a flashlight. We're going to be shining a light onto a subject to help illuminate it, as if we were shining a flashlight to help us to focus on it. So from the hub of knowing, you'll focus your flashlight of attention onto breath. Then you'll move your flashlight of attention to the sense of touch, and so on, each time imagining it's like a spoke being sent from the hub to the rim of the wheel, and we'll move counterclockwise all the way around. So this is the end of the description, and now I invite you to move to the guided prayer.